Hi there, welcome to Hoods, your guide to Chicago's most unique and lively neighborhoods and the fun they have to offer. I'm your host, Hope England, and today we will be hopping on a Red Line train northbound to Chicago's historic Uptown area, where we will be looking forward to a whole lot of laughter. Chicago is known throughout the world as a city of comedy. Some of the most famous comedians like Bill Murray, Chris Farley, Steve Carell, and Tina Fey first got their start in the improv scene here. Upholding the Chicago comedy legacy is Uptown's Annoyance Theater, which has had the city rolling in laughter for the past 24 years.
The Annoyance Theater is a theater that's been around now we're coming up on 25 years. And it's a theater that is sort of dedicated to the idea of doing whatever that you want to do. Generally, what you'd find here is a combination of sketch, improv, and plays and musicals, which is pretty broad. The Annoyance was established in 1987, and it was a group of people who came from Indiana University. Mick Napier came with a bunch of his friends, and essentially they just kind of wanted to do a show. And so a month later, in October of 1987, they did their first show, which was called Splatter Theater, and it was a parody of slasher film genre. So we still run that show to this day, and that was the first Annoyance show. And from there, they decided, hey, this was fun, let's do a theater. When we were looking for space after our theater closed on Clark Street, we were looking really all over the city, and we had looked at this particular building and fell in love with the building. We felt like it was a really good fit. It was a good opportunity for us as far as the space itself, and as far as Uptown went, we felt like it was an area that was kind of just on the edge of turning. We feel like, you know, it's a little rough around the edges, and so are we, and we just felt like that was a good fit. Well, co-ed has run throughout our entire history. I think that the reason it's run for so long and been so successful is that it becomes sort of a cult favorite. It's the most vulgar, dirty show that you can imagine, but at the same time it has a sweetness and an innocence to it, and it's just a lot of fun. So we have people now that come back after having seen it 20 years ago, and they bring, you know, their kids, or they'll come back to celebrate, you know, maybe they had their first date while watching Co-ed Prison Sluts and they come back to see it. So we get a lot of repeat business that way. We have classes in improvisation, and our classes are taught by people who are either performers on our stage or who have been through our program. Just in terms of the Annoyance, we're really, really proud of having lasted 25 years. It's not an easy thing for any company in Chicago to make it for that long, and we're really proud of the support that we've gotten from the entire community and the city, and excited about continuing on into our future.
Sounds like the Annoyance is a place to be for a fun time if you're in the Uptown area. The theater is located at 4830 North Broadway and features a variety of shows year-round. For tickets, showtimes, information on classes, and everything else, visit annoyanceproductions.com. Here to join us today in the studio is special guest Joe Keefe, writer and former Second City member and currently a professor at Columbia College Chicago. Joe is going to give us an inside look at the world of improv comedy, which has thrived at the Annoyance and other Chicago theaters for many years. So Joe, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I started in comedy in the late 1600s.
Okay.
Magellan and I, he was a little later than me. No, I started very young in comedy. I started as a kid actor in 1963 on Romper Room. I had a recurring character. I was the science nerd.
Oh, wow.
I know, hard to believe. But I started in professional comedy when I was 13. I was in a group, a sketch comedy group called Joe Macburn, if you can believe that.
Nice.
Yeah, we used to go around. We used to open for some really interesting acts because it was all musical acts. We would open for them at like coffee shops and places like that. So we opened for Bonnie Kolak, who was a great folk artist, and Siegel Schwall Blues Band, a bunch of other bands like that. We had a lot of fun. It was a great time, and a comedy, you know, in Chicago, I mean, it is the place to grow up in comedy. So I grew up in comedy.
Yeah, I hear Chicago's like the Mecca.
It is. It's, you know, the thing about Chicago is you can work here and then go off in other places and then try to work. But in Chicago, you know, there's so many storefront theaters and brilliant theaters as well. So, you know, Second City kind of started as the original storefront theater. It was literally like above a Chinese laundry, literally, and you know, it was very few sets and props and stuff like that. So it's a place where people can get a lot of experience in front of audiences.
Right.
And the audiences in Chicago, by the way, are very savvy audiences. They know what they like, and they know, they have standards about what they're doing too. So it can be a lot of fun. I loved it. I mean, I really treasure my my life in comedy because I literally grew up in the business.
Right.
So
what made you want to get started in comedy? Like as a child, how did you?
Well, I short, nerdy, intelligent, Irish, big family. The nuns beat it into me, is what it was. The nuns just beat the comedy into me. It's weird because there's a lot, in the Irish tradition, there's a lot of spoken word, obviously, in comedy. That is the basis of comedy. So I literally come from a large Irish family, and just to be heard, you had to be funny.
Right.
So one of the great joys of my life is making my dad laugh. I mean, his laugh, you could just hear it. So when I was a kid, I started out being kind of the class clown and the family smart aleck, and that grew into a lucrative professional career.
Did you have a lot of brothers and sisters?
Yes.
So that probably helped. Huh?
Yeah. I have 7 brothers and sisters, all of whom are shorter than me, strangely enough. No, they're not. But I've got a great family. And everybody's pretty funny, and they're all creative types, too. So it was
so after doing when you were younger, doing sketch comedy, where did it take you after that?
Well, I started writing for National Lampoon magazine. That was my first professional, big-time professional breakthrough. I wrote for National Lampoon as I used to write the letters, the comedy letters in the front of the magazine. And Matty Simmons, who owned the magazine and founded it at the time, he kind of took a liking to me. From there, I studied a lot of improv. I went through every teacher you could go through, and some of the greats in the business. I studied with Paul Sills and Joe Forsberg, and then I ended up studying with Bernie Sahlins, the founder of Second City, and he and I were very close, had a very close relationship. So I did all the stuff. I toured a little bit. I did main stage. I got fired from main stage. I got fired from ETC. I got fired from Toronto.
For being too funny?
No, it was not my problem. Just funny enough. But I actually hold the record for being fired most times from Second City. I was fired 7 times.
Wow, how does that happen?
I've got a big mouth.
Okay.
even by Second City standards, I've got a big mouth. And I didn't shut up a lot, so I kept getting fired. But the good part is I am the most hired person by Second City ever, because they kept hiring me back.
So can we see some old archive scenes of you and stuff on the main stage?
Yeah, I have. My real forte back then was blackouts. I was kind of known as a blackout specialist, which is shorter, very punchy. And there's still blackouts today of mine that 25, 30 years ago that the touring company's still doing. So
that's amazing.
I'm thrilled. I couldn't be happier with that. So anytime I go back to do a little something, I just do the blackouts. I don't get into big scenes or anything.
Did you go back for the birthday, the 50th?
Yeah, I was at the 50th, and the restraining order had just lifted. So I was able to go back for the 50th, and actually, I think my parole officer had to be there. I'm not sure, but it was a lot of fun.
You were in cuffs?
Yeah, we had a great time. It was great to see everybody. All the kids you mentioned, other than Bill Murray, worked for me at one point.
Wow.
Farley and Tina Fey and Carell and Colbert, all those guys. I either directed them or they worked for me in other capacities at Second City.
That's amazing.
So. Yeah.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you're here today.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's really an honor to be here, and it's an honor for me to be anywhere, frankly. So it was great.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
That's about all the time we have, so we have to catch our train to call it a day. We would like to thank Jennifer Estlin of the Annoyance Theater for letting us have a look inside one of Chicago's best options for fun. We would also like to thank Joe Keefe for joining us in the studio today and telling us a little bit about improv comedy. Uptown is a neighborhood in the process of reinventing itself as an epicenter of entertainment for Chicago's North Side. Its emerging businesses are building towards the future, while the neighborhood still retains the charm of its storied past. Until next time, I'm Hope England, and this has been Hoods.